the flagship of this particular group. And within the halls of this ship, a group of recruits shuffles towards a door at the end of a hallway, whispering nervously to each other. They have failed their mission, and now they are going to report that failure to the person that they hoped would be their commander. As the door opens, they see two people standing over a table with a map of the sector projected onto it. They discuss things, talking about positions, speaking the names of groups that the recruits don't yet recognize. One is a serious-looking man with a military-style haircut, standing straight-backed and listening intently to the other person, who is bent over the table, gesturing and issuing commands. As the group enters, she cuts off her stream of orders and straightens, towering over them, a powerful, muscular figure who knows well how to command the respect of her people. An oddly curved sword sits on her hip as she crosses her arms and watches the group walking up to her. She doesn't say anything, staring them down until one of them stumbles further ahead and with his eyes on the floor explains their failure. He starts to try and justify this, but instead she cuts him off, moving forward and drawing her sword quicker than any of them can react to. She presses the blade against his neck, the inward curve of the weapon almost a caress against his skin. Along the flat of this weapon, alchemical runes glow, much in a similar way to a sword they so recently saw, and she looks down at them and says, "You have failed. I am not surprised, but I will not pretend that I am not disappointed. I will have to punish you for this. However, information has come to light, and we need as many hands as we can get. So luckily for you, I will still accept your application to join our cause. The Covenant needs as many hands as we can get, but a lesson will have to be learned from this." She reaches forward and yanks the blaster pistol that she had gifted him out of its holster. And as she does this, the man that she had been talking to and a few other guards who had followed the group into the room step in and likewise disarm the rest of them. As they start to protest, she presses the sword harder against his neck, drawing a bead of blood. And the leader puts his hand up to quell the protest of the others, and she goes on to explain, "These weapons were gifts, promises of the power that the Blazing Covenant could bestow upon its people. Out here in the Outlands, weapons like this, even as small as these, are rare. You will have a chance to earn them once again. However, earn is the key word in that statement. Go with my guards. They will take you to the armory and give you your blades. All of our kind must be proficient, as not all can be armed with such precious gifts as these. Once you've retrieved these, return to your ships, and your part of the fleet will be assigned to you." And with that, they are dismissed. She returns to the table, and the guards silently maneuver, showing them that their presence here is no longer welcomed and herding them out into the hallway, down and away, deeper into the ship to do as their commander has ordered. The one who spoke up before stops at the doorway and calls out. She lifts her head, not leaving the table, but giving him a chance to speak his piece. Commander, we did encounter somebody. We only saw two, but a group of them surrounded us in the thick foliage of the planet. They were at the site too. Perhaps they got something out of it. Maybe we should follow them? If they have something that's useful, maybe it'll be easier to get it from them than to try another site. He looks at her with a scheming hopefulness of someone who thinks they have found a way to snatch a victory from the jaws of defeat. And she looks through him, calculations of positions and information running through her head, until she slowly nods and says, "Thank you. I will take this into consideration. Now, go about your business." And with that, the door shuts, separating the group. Alright, everybody. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to our Ironsworn Starforged campaign, Crystalline Shadows. Where last we left off, Ash and Vander had made their way out of the precursor vault and ran into a bit of a scuffle from that group that they had found on their way in. They had a mild confrontation with them and eventually were able to scare them off by making them think that they had been surrounded by a much larger group than just the pair actually was. After that, the pair returned to the city. Was Felicity correct? Or was that the planet? Yes, Felicity. They had returned to Felicity and helped with preparations for an oncoming flood. They returned to find the city boarding up and blockading the place in order to prevent the flooding from harming their homes and whatnot. And they stayed a little bit to help. And after that, Ash had to make a decision whether to return home to Purgatory and hopefully be able to plead his case and Vander's case so that they could get taken care of, or to seek help for them himself, probably delving into more of this mysterious ancient civilization that spanned the Forge. And he made the decision to strike out with Vander. Now this, as I said last time, this isn't to abandon his previous commitments to the Shattered Regiment, but it is to maybe find enough important stuff to hopefully refocus at least his sect of that faction, because they've gotten fairly militaristic with their actions against the Scarlet Shards, and that is not what Vander, or not, I keep doing that. Ash didn't sign up just to be a soldier. Ash signed up to make a difference. And he sees this opportunity to now make a difference and is going to do so. But so they've left Valinor, and go. I think they're gonna go back to Gloam for a bit, because Valinor's got some issues. Or should they stay on Valinor for a bit? So our supply is good, and if you follow a route that you know, one of these pathways, as opposed to charting your own way, you just kind of roll once just to generally check to make sure. So what I'm thinking, I want to do a bit of a reset here, because we're not in great shape. And that might be, let's see, begin a session. I think that's one of the things. Where's it? Take a break. When you resolve a progress move or complete an intense scenario, take a move. Okay, that's a personal take a break, not a character take a break. I think these are all more just for personally taking care of yourself while you're playing. I don't want to get stuck trying to, hearten and heal and resupply and keep getting kind of screwed over by the dice. That's part of it, but it's also running around at, low health bars across the board for the entire time isn't super fun. And now that we've gotten to a point that I think makes sense for them to take a bit of a break, I think that's what they are gonna do. So let's make that roll real quick. Why am I bouncing? I don't need to bounce around. Of set a course. Curious. Right. I don't even know if we have to do this. Because it's through parallel. Well, there is that faction. We don't know what those guys are gonna do when they return to their fleet. So because there is potentially an issue, let's roll. We'll roll plus supply, which is 4. So let's just make sure nothing really serious happens here. A strong hit with a match. Okay, so on a strong hit, you reach your destination and the situation favors you. Take +1 momentum. So our momentum's up to 5. And now I'm gonna have that match come into play a little bit later, because I have an idea. But for now, what happens is they're gonna go back to Gloam here. We'll go here just for that. And now Gloam, as was established before, is a icy planet. It's really small, I think. Kind of this got these rocky islands and icy wastes. There is a giant canyon that you can see that kind of spans the entire planet, almost separating it into 2 different hemispheres, But there's this one little settlement. Sorry, Boreas is the planet, Gloam is the settlement. That doesn't really have a lot going on. It's nestled in this kind of triangle of mountains, in order to form, you know, a windbreak from just the mostly flat, icy plains that surround it. So it's this little oasis in this very, very inhospitable wasteland otherwise. And what it is basically is it's like a truck stop, or if you want the more fantasy version, one of those kind of hunters cabins that people just kind of leave stocked with basic supplies. So if somebody stumbles on it, they can rest and recuperate for a bit. So this is just a spot that people have at some point put down, you know, enough concrete landing pads for a couple of starships to land, and enough permanent buildings for some sort of, you know, bits of trade or gathering places or something, and to occur. When Ash and Vander first arrived here, there was an issue where a rogue element had set up a jamming signal. So anyone who landed here, which was like the first thing you did if you came in through the known way to get into this sector, you would instantly lose all your navigation devices and then have to pay them in order to get the codes to unscramble it. Now, they dealt with that. So this has gone once again back to being just this way station refuge, which is exactly what Ash and Vander need right now. They need something quiet, where they can rest and recuperate, and to look into some things. So I'm gonna bump up. I'm not gonna bump up our supply. We already did that for last session. But I'm gonna bump up health and spirit by 1 for free, because they're gonna take like a week or so to just rest and recuperate and to plan out next steps. And I think I am gonna roll a repair to try and fix up the starship a little bit, because the Stellar Hawk has been beat up for quite a while now. But also, while they're doing this, while Ash is outside in his environmental suit, making repairs, Vander is inside, trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? Trying to figure out some of these things that they found. I went back and double checked, and they found, while they were in the vault, they came upon some equipment they took for later research. A more advanced medical mask, like Vander had been using as they to help stave off the sickness that they've got, this sort of pneumonia-like illness that they're suffering from. They found a more advanced version of the device they use to aerosolize their medicine and inhale it. And also they found a like a handheld scanner type thing that they can't turn on, and that it isn't obvious of what they scanned. Now, it was in a medical facility, so it could be specifically medical, and it could be something else. Could be more general. I think we'll roll for that. You know what? I'm gonna say it's more general. Just to make it more useful. I don't want to put that into too small of a box to where it never comes up. So let's see, because we do have limited supplies here. So I do want to roll for the repair just to see how well it goes, because we've got, you know, limited supplies. And Ash is going to be making his own repairs. So we will be rolling plus wits, which is good. Not maybe could be better with supply. But let's see. We are in the field. So this is gonna limit what we can do. However, we aren't, on the edge of, blowing up. So could be worse. And that is a strong hit. So on a strong hit in the field, you get 3 points. And then you can spend supply to get extra points. However, if we're just worried about integrity, 1 point is +1 integrity, and +3 integrity. 1, 2. Oh, no. That's not what I want. That apparently increases the maximum integrity of the vehicle. +3 integrity takes us from 2 to 5. So, I think Ash has, now that, and I think it's appropriate, now that Ash has finally made the decision and committed to this person that he took prisoner at first, that he's now realized kind of allowed themselves to be taken prisoner in order to maybe gain an ally, and they have now become allies, at least tentatively, as Ash has committed to helping Vander fix their illness. But that's, now that that's, that conflict has been resolved within Ash's mind, he's committed to a path. Now he can finally focus on what he likes to do, which is, the sci-fi equivalent of being a car guy, I guess, for a while. He has a very productive week or so, and has the Stellar Hawk in a ship shape. There's probably some people who have they swap some supplies here and there. Like we said, the townsfolk of Felicity gave some gifts that represented supply. Maybe some of those treats were traded for ship parts, and some non-essential ship parts for the Stellar Hawk. It's like, hey, we've got a couple of extra circuit boards, we need that extra panel that you've got a spare one of, type thing. To where it was a net trade, but it was, trade for stuff that was extra just in case for stuff that was absolutely needed. So the Stellar Hawk that had been limping along and held together by the power of denial and duct tape is now once again truly space-worthy. And has a few more scars to go along with the scars that the previous owner left. And I think we are going to zoom back into the interior of the ship now as Ash comes in and brushes the dust and frost off of his environmental suit, probably taking it off in the warmth of the ship to get some time free of it. We can hear Vander in the workshop humming along to the music that occasionally you can faintly hear through the echoing through the halls of this ship. Now, something else that has happened, something else that needs to happen. I don't think we need to roll for this. This is a this is a more narrative moment, is we see Vander. Ash comes in and sees Vander tinkering with the new mask, kind of having both of them on the table, and doing a one-to-one comparison of like, okay, this is muttering to themselves of like, this is the equivalent of this here, and that replaces that, and it looks like a more efficient way. They clearly upgraded these bits here, and Ash isn't going to interrupt their hyper focus. He knows what it's like to be in the middle of tinkering and have someone pull you out of it. So he's just going to quietly go to his own little project that I think is almost complete, that he's kind of just been doing on his downtime, when he's either waiting for someone else to come in with supplies they need or just giving his body and tools time to rest. I don't think Ash is the type to have much media. I think he's the type that is reads technical manuals and whatnot for fun. But so what he probably has been doing in his spare time is working on a power supply for that scanner, so they can turn it on and start figuring out what that is. And like Vander has probably fully translated all the buttons, so they know what the buttons in theory do, but buttons that say scan and convert and up, down, left, right, numbers, stuff like that's all great, but you can only get so much info out of that. And now Ash has cleaned out the area where the power source goes, and luckily it's the same power source that they're using nowadays. It's those heart crystals, and he's got plenty of spare ones on the ship, so he can it's probably less that it has to be like a new power cell converted into a completely foreign format. It's more figuring out what the symbols are so you get the power flow in the correct state, and once he's got that and all the connections and stuff are cleaned up, it's just taking a heart crystal and I imagine there's some gem cutting involved of buffing it and scraping it down to size. I'm not quite sure exactly how you cut gems, but the slight trimmings that you have to do to get it to fit this the designated space, and then it comes to life. And Vander is able to take it and I'm sure they took a couple of samples of vegetation and whatnot, and they've got bits and bobs, and they can start scanning stuff and analyzing it and whatnot. And I think it's I think this is a it's a biological scanner of sorts. It's a general you can take samples of various types of things, and it can maybe tell you certain properties of it. If it's a substance that the scanner has information saved on, it might be able to tell you. I don't think it can do any testing of like what that substance's properties are, but it's more like if you crush up some leaves and turn them into like a liquid or a paste, it can scan that and go, yes, I know this chemical composition, that's this plant. And then if it has the plant, it can be like, these are the properties, but it can't scan something that it doesn't know what it is and tell you what it does. So it's a useful, it's a secret tool that might help us out later. We'll see. As for that strong hit, or not the strong hit, but the strong hit with the match, to be specific, what I think happens is that they are told about another way out of this sector, because I think they have to leave the sector, right? Or they have to start heading out of the sector anyway. And what I think that match represents is, as they're getting ready to leave, someone comes in and they're talking, because there's socialization that goes on during the downtime. This might be just a way station, but when the shop lights shut off for the night, people tend to gather and talk and wind down, maybe with some poker or other sort of gambling games. And so I think it's, well, they're talking to these people that, where are you going next? And it looks like, your ship's fixed up. They find a person who knows about an old path that hasn't been used. There isn't much that goes on in this sector. Felicity put down roots, and they're pretty happily existing on Valinor now, but that doesn't mean that's the only thing that's in this sector. It just means it's the only thing that is, knowingly inhabited. We'll find out maybe, but I think I'm just gonna add a pathway, a start and an end here, just to make note of it. So we're gonna have to go through here. So I think what that is that's we're gonna use set a course first to get to here, and then we'll undertake a somewhat shorter expedition to get to this end path into the next sector, and whatever is in here in between is in here in between. So with that, I think they'll set out. The now less contentious duo have settled into a routine of sorts. They've done both emergency takeoffs and standard procedural takeoffs, and now I think it's gotten to the point where Vander can help Ash get through some of the checks, especially now that they've covered up they've removed the covers on some of those flashing warning lights that the Stellar Hawk has they've been ignoring for a little while. And now that Ash doesn't kind of have to jerry-rig his way through some of the safety procedures, he can show Vander how to do some co-pilot-y type stuff and help prepare for takeoff together, as they are going to set course to cell H-6-8 in the Quada sector of the Forge. So let's see how that goes. That's correct, right? Yep, 4 supply. Boom, another strong hit. Awesome. So on a strong hit, you reach your destination and the situation favors you, take +1 momentum. So I think it's Ash is happy to have his ship back in quite literally ship shape. And now comes a more challenging part. So we switch to undertaking an expedition. I think what has happened here is this passage is no longer established. They've at one point this passage may have been used as a through point, but when Felicity got established, that through point stopped being necessary. And anyone coming in to stopping at Gloam was specifically doing it to get ready for their last leg of their trip out to Felicity. And what this person has given us is there we go. What that person gave Ash was, there used to be a passage through this sector that would lead deeper into the Outlands. And it's you know, they pull up coordinates and they're like, I think it started here and it led out this way, and then that kind of goes, you know, off the map of whatever is defined as a sector. But it hasn't been flown in a long time. People don't know what's out there anymore. So we might come across some stuff. So I think it's just going to be smooth sailing as usual, on the calm, and keeping an eye out for anything interesting. So we are going to be undertaking an expedition now, using our wits at first. So giving our expedition a name and a rank, progress clock, we'll say dangerous. And we'll just say reach the next precursor site. Precursor should technically be capitalized. So that's what this is going to be. We'll find out what the site is when we get there. I probably won't use precursor vaults all the time for the rules, just to switch it up, because there are the derelict rules and stuff. And I believe there were like settlement style derelicts I saw last time we did a derelict, so it will probably be doing those and switching and only using like vaults as like the big important sites. So don't quite know what we're gonna find when we get there yet, but these guys have this advanced medical technology. Maybe we can find something that can help Vander. So now we are going to switch to rolling with our wits, as our now that the pair have gotten into a comfortable pattern of travel, and you know, the jump recharge type that our Eidolon drive needs, I think these two new freshly established pals are going to fall into a somewhat comfortable routine as they go through that bit of space. And now that routine is threatened as they go into the mysterious black of a unexplored passageway. All right, and that is a weak hit. So mark progress first of all before we forget. We get to mark 2 boxes of progress, and then we will on a weak hit, you mark progress, but it costs you. Choose one. You face a peril at the waypoint, or you make a suffer move. Now we just got our stuff up, so let's face a peril at the waypoint. I believe there are oracles for that. For space, so a space peril. You reach a waypoint that is significant. Let me check something real quick here. Space encounter. All right, so make sure we're in the right set of oracles in the Outlands. So we've got a spacebound peril, and that's what these are for. So let's see what kind of peril we find. A stellar anomaly emits hazardous energies. Okay, so this seems like a simple peril that can probably be taken care of with a single roll. This isn't something that they really have to delve into. This is just facing danger. Probably I think I can argue wits for this and not make it feel contrived, because if it's an energy thing, because let me see here, what was it again? Okay, so if it was like stellar anomaly emits hazardous energies, I believe is what we rolled. I've already technically forgotten the specifics, but we can also go back real quick into space and check the stellar object, see what kind of stellar object is emitting these dangerous energies. 2 stars in close orbit connected by fiery tendrils of energy. So yeah, the what the book describes is the Eidolon drives, or the E drives that we use to skip through space. You know, they've got enough energy for a couple of hours, and then they've got to charge, and they charge best in like gravity wells. So Ash probably dropped them out when they were getting low, because, you know, the sensors picked up a good gravity well, and then they realized it's these 2 stars that are just blasting all kinds of energy at each other. However, if they zip away now, they might be stuck for quite some time. So instead of just trying to zoom away, what was a nice leisurely cruise for the first little bit has turned into a dangerous thing. And what I think is going to happen is Ash is going to crank the sensors up and set as many of them as possible to looking for these, you know, dangerous bursts of radiation and solar energy that could very well fry their components in and re-damage some of the sensitive parts of the Stellar Hawk. You know, it's got radiation shielding, but yeah, that's only rated for so high, and just because parts of the ship are the interior of the ship is protected, doesn't mean all the external electrical components are as heavily shielded as, you know, what's supposed to protect the squishy human. So I think this is going to be a rolling under observation, as Ash is going to try and maneuver through this hazardous field of bursts and waves and tendrils of fiery energy and radioactive bursts and whatnot, in order to charge the ship to make a proper jump afterwards, rather than jumping again on the back foot. So we're going to try and roll to face danger plus wits and see how it works. And that is another weak hit. On a weak hit, you succeed, but now without a cost, make a suffer move -1. I think the obvious one is that the Stellar Hawk takes some damage. You know, that's why we repaired. So we can take that damage without it being, you know, a problem, because, you know, we would have been down to 1 point of integrity for the Stellar Hawk otherwise. So I think for the most part, there are a couple of close shaves that, you know, maybe some electrical components are eventually going to have to be replaced sooner rather than later. But for the most part, Ash is successful in navigating through this dangerous situation, so they can then go ahead and jump on the next part of their course, which is just the same roll of wits again. And yet another weak hit. And that's on a 9. That was as good as we could have gotten. Dang. Alright, so we're gonna face another peril. First we mark progress. But let's roll again and see what we can get. See what interesting complications arise. Dust clouds imperil navigation or conceal foes. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we can make another creature on the space oracles now. So they they jump out and are you know, going in and out of like a planet's rings, because those are kind of like space dust and ice and stuff like that. We'll say there's a planet that is, you know, a Saturn-like gas giant with these big dramatic rings stretching out, and you know they can maneuver in and out and around them, but unfortunately the where they have to sit in the gravity well is kind of parking them in the middle of this dust and debris, and just, you know, the rare occasion when space just blocks when space is not, you know, this empty void of nothingness. It's right when it's most inconvenient, of course. And what they don't see is that there is something that lives in these rings, feeding off of something, whether it be, you know, the radiation and the energy from the nearby star. We can check. Let's just check. Let's just have some fun. Let's roll for another stellar object. A corrupted star radiating with an unnatural light. So the cockpit is just bathed in this what's an unnatural color for a star? We'll say greenish. It's got this sickly green light. And it flickers and pulses and is just almost on the edge of being unstable. And so what is feeding off this energy? Let's find out. The scale of this thing is something person size, so it's probably going to be like a bunch of them. What is the basic form here? Jellyfish, gas bag, ray, flat body. We'll go with rays. I don't know if you're supposed to have both of those or not, but we'll just keep it a little simple here. This is like a space manta ray. They're person sized. They're you know, flat with maybe a long tendril tail. And let's augment it a little bit with this first look, as you know, as Vander kind of has their feet, you know, up on the console as they're wont to do, half napping when there's a bit of a, you know, a little chirp from one of the sensors that they ignore, but Ash has to check it out. You know, they're the captain, they're the one in charge, they're flying the ship. So what is this? And he flicks on the screen for it, and Vander sits up very quickly when Ash goes, "That's odd. What are those things?" And they are, as the pair kind of stare at the monitor as these things come into view, elongated neck and very graceful. So I think these are somewhat symmetrical. The neck these things have they kind of balance. They're almost they've got that long, narrow, spindly tail, and the thick, kind of stubby manta ray type wings, arms, whatever you want to call them. And then instead of like the kind of flat snub nose that you get with most rays, it's got another elongated protrusion out front. Not as long as the tail. I'm going to say it's like half as long as the tail. And maybe, person sized, we can up that a little bit to maybe like 8 feet, stretch the definition of person sized a little bit because of that. So it's, maybe 2 foot of neck, 2 foot of body, and then 4 feet of tail-ish, roughly speaking. And there's just a swarm of them coming around the ship. Now, let's roll to see what their behavior is. See if this is a hazard of just trying to get the ship out around them, or if maybe we've got to run. They're trying to nest on the Stellar Hawk. That's not good. We're gonna have to try and get away. So, but they aren't being super aggressive. So I think as soon as the Stellar Hawk leaves, they will be able to do so. So should I face danger? I think instead of doing both a face danger and then an undertaken expedition, I'm just gonna do another undertaken expedition. But we're gonna do it with edge to represent them just trying to get out of there before these critters can really latch on and start, digging into Ash's nice, newly, freshly repaired ship. As the two see that these creatures are trying to attach themselves to the Stellar Hawk, Ash very quickly nudges it into motion to break them free as the pair scramble to fasten in their belts for the initiation of the E-Drive jump. We're going to roll plus edge to very quickly leave the area. And that's a strong hit with a match. So on a strong hit, you just mark progress. So we mark progress again. We're up to 6 out of 10. And then I think we're going to get to a good waypoint here. We'll make a discovery. So on the match, here's what I'm gonna do, because you only make a discovery, I should say, you're only supposed to make a discovery when you get the match, specifically on Explore Waypoint. So I think we're gonna get an explorable waypoint here, and I'm also gonna mark double progress. I'm gonna mark progress twice to get us up to 8 out of 10. So we've only got a little bit to go. I will mark our stuff. Okay, so I've added in the twin stars here, and I've added in the Jovian planet. Roll the name Nephele, and I added the little creature just so we have notes of the stuff that we rolled in case we end up coming back to this sector. But we're actually like over here at the kind of the last leg of this expedition. I'm thinking of the word for a second. And we have found a waypoint. So we are going to explore this waypoint. We got a strong hit with a match. I feel like we got to put something here. We made a good bit of progress. And then Ash and Vander draw after their very quick flight and a lucky jump. What do they find? What opportunity do they find? Possibly. A miss. A miss that I can't burn. Momentum. So that's a problem. On a miss, you encounter an immediate hardship or threat and must pay the price. Well, I think that's obviously another spaceborne peril. Let's see. Let's see what the oracles give us and maybe extrapolate it out a little bit there. Threatening life form draws near. So they ran from the other one. They ran from these rays that were going to try and turn the Stellar Hawk into a nice little cozy nest. And then a lucky jump that made quite a bit of good progress, only for them to land around this other spot where so now they've dropped out of space in order to they've dropped out of space only to find a new threat. They're at some sort of planet that they don't even really get a chance to pay attention to, because immediately, as soon as they drop out, their sensors start going off. Something big and dangerous this time is out there. So let's see a little bit. I'm gonna pick some things of this myself. Where are the creature oracles? Creatures. Scale. We're gonna say this is huge, whale-sized. Now, remember, I do believe it does say that our starship is armed multi-purpose starship. So it does, we do have weapons. We can fight this thing if we have to. However, I don't know if that's a good idea. So let's see. Let's roll. I've made a decision for the size. I think I'm going to roll everything else. So let's start with the basic form. Worm, slug, or larva. So, okay. So I want to point out with this that snake / eel is different from worm, slug, larva. So I think I'm gonna go with worm, something that is really thin and long. I'm thinking, you know, giant space tapeworm like. And what else does it have? ornamented or colorful, so we'll go with colorful. You know, it probably doesn't really, I don't know if this thing really needs stealth. I think this is a not really a predator, more of a parasite type where it like wraps around a creature. And then kind of like it like burrows in. It feeds off of like giant big space creatures, or you know, when it encounters smaller creatures, it'll just kind of tangle them all up and slowly go from one to the other. Let's let's do another one. Just crystalline, so it's crystalline. So maybe just it just kind of shreds things and absorbs them. Those can be very dangerous. So there is a colorful crystalline, so it's like a rainbow. It's like a rain. It's diffusing the sunlight of the nearby star through its body and refracting the light into just dozens of different colors. As its crystalline worm-like body just kind of hurtles through space towards the Stellar Hawk. And I think that's where we're gonna call it for the night. We'll leave off on that wonderful cliffhanger, and kick off the next session with how they get away from this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this more relaxed travel section of our campaign. And give a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see what comes next. I hope you all have a lovely day.